From popcorn to millions, 83 finalists, but one girl's shocking decision changes everything. The crowd buzzed with electric anticipation, hearts racing, breaths held. A singular moment, poised to rewrite destinies, hung in the air. 83 finalists, each thumping heart-pumping dreams of fame, and there she was, Lila. Ordinary yet extraordinary. She stood apart, her breath shallow, eyes wide with untold secrets. Suddenly, the room fell silent. All eyes fixed on her, waiting. No one expected what came next. At the center of the spotlight, Lila clutched a crumpled piece of paper, its edges frayed with anxiety. It felt heavy in her hand, like a ticking time bomb just waiting for the slightest spark. What had she mingled with? What dark thought ran through her mind? Whispers echoed across the arena. What is her secret? Is she really about to? Tension thickened. The huge screen flickered, showcasing glamorous success stories of finalists past. But Lila's face dimmed against the glitz around her, shadowed by an internal storm. It wasn't just about the money, the fame, or the success. No, she knew that. But there's something deeper beneath her uncertainty, like a cold wave crashing against the shore. Thoughts spiraled. Did she really want this life? In that pulsating atmosphere, Lila took a shaky breath, inhaling courage and dread all at once. Just moments remained. The world hung in suspension. An unseen hand turned the dial on the volume, amplifying the weight of her decision. The audience murmured surprise, speculation, even resentment danced through their whispers. She can't possibly, one voice sliced through the tension. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The silence was deafening as she raised her head, her gaze scanning the sea of faces: anticipation, hope, judgment. In that heartbeat, she flashed back to her childhood. Rolling around on the floor, dreaming of something more, a world where dreams weren't shackled by expectations. And right then, under the harsh lights of the stage, Lila felt a surge of rebellion mixed with doubt. Shivers danced down her spine as the announcer leaned in, voice dripping with fervor. What will you choose, Lila? The entire crowd held their collective breath, confusion buzzing through the room. Then, just before she spoke, the lights flickered. Lila could hear muffled whispers, her own thoughts eclipsed by rising panic. She could feel their gazes, some filled with encouragement, others harboring disapproving frowns. With the weight of the world on her shoulders, she made her choice. Would she take the leap? Or would she walk away from it all? Every eye remained fixated on her, and every heartbeat echoed in time with hers, pounding, thrumming, desperate. The final question hung in the air, waiting to change everything. What would she say? The moment stretched like taffy, each second snapping back, just before the culmination of years of hope and unspoken fear. Lila's pulse quickened, a drum in her ears. She opened her mouth, a tremor of resolve mixing with the jagged edges of her uncertainty. The words hung delicately at the tip of her tongue, but an unexpected commotion sliced through her concentration. A voice, cut from the shadows, cried out, urgent and desperate. Wait! Don't! Gasps erupted. Heads turned, confusion rippling across the crowd. Who could dare interrupt the choice of a lifetime? Lila's gaze darted to the source, heart racing quicker than before. It was Jenna, her longtime friend, spilling forward from the back of the stage, hair wild and eyes wild with fear. Don't you do this! Jenna pleaded. She was breathless, the weight of her urgency palpable. Lila's breath caught. Did Jenna know her dilemma? The shared laughter from their childhood, the whispered dreams during sleepless nights, it all flashed through her mind. Yet, the rules of the competition loomed, pressing against her like thick fog. She sensed the audience's shock, many mouths agape, others whispering rapidly. It created a chaotic orchestra of confusion. "Jenna, what are you doing?" Lila finally whispered, her voice cracked but steady. "It's not what you think. You don't need to choose money or fame. They're not what they seem. Please, just listen." The mixture of hurt and fear in Jenna's expression gripped Lila's heart. Time seemed to fold in on itself, each spectator waiting, barely breathing. Lila hesitated, her mind racing. The adrenaline buzzed through her, igniting a fire within. But she couldn't ignore the storm brewing in Jenna's eyes. "What do you mean? Please, remember that night at the lake?" Jenna continued, her voice trembling with raw emotion. "The stars were our dreams, Lila. This isn't what it looks like. They're selling more than just a dream." The crowd murmured again, thickening the tension. They were witnesses, yet they hardly understood the depth behind those words. The ambitions that had once shimmered brightly in Lila's mind were suddenly clouded by doubt. What if Jenna was right? What unseen chains had she overlooked in her desperate pursuit of independence? "What are you saying?" Lila urged, her voice rising over the wheels of confusion. This wasn't just about her, this was a moment that could engulf them both. A flicker of clarity broke through Jenna's distress. "They manipulate. They take your story and mold it into theirs. This isn't just a contest, it's a trap." Lila's heart palpitated as Jenna's words sunk in. The thought of being a pawn, a character in a carefully crafted spectacle struck like ice flowing through her veins. The announcer's urgency snapped Lila back. "Lila. You have to decide." The spotlight shifted back to her, a heavy weight again on her shoulders. It felt like the boundaries of her reality splintered and reformed. The faces of the crowd blurred, each person an echo of expectation, pressure pulsing like a heart. Just then, a sudden, startling noise erupted from the back. The audience gasped as the lights sparked wildly. A burst of smoke filled the air, a momentary distraction. Confusion mounted even higher. When she was finally alone again under the harsh, glaring lights, Lila's thoughts tangled between moments of clarity and shadows of doubt. Was she truly ready to walk this path? With Jenna's warning ringing in her ears, she hesitated once more, heart pounding as her thoughts flared, waiting for direction. "Your decision, Lila. What will it be?" As the weight of the world pressed down, she stood at a crossroads. There was no turning back now. Her voice trembled, unsure yet full of potential. A door stood ajar, darkness behind it entwined with flickering possibilities, and Lila was left to choose. Was she stepping into greatness or doom? Just as she opened her mouth to speak, the lights dimmed abruptly, plunging the stage into a moment of darkness. The arena held its breath, caught in the grip of fate, and so was Lila. But then, through the chilling silence, a whisper of hope pierced the darkness. What if I choose to change the game? What if this moment could be about more than just winning? In the shadows, seeds of defiance took root. And beneath the buzzing uncertainty of the moment, something ignited inside Lila. Would she break the mold or remain trapped? The answer lingered in the thick air, and she felt the pull of fate unfolding what awaited her on the other side of this choice. The darkness enveloped her like a thick fog. Lila's heart raced, the echoing silence pressing heavily around her. The crowd, once a sea of expectant faces, was now a blur, their murmurs replaced with an eerie hush. Lila could feel the weight of their scrutiny. They were waiting, just as she was waiting, for a choice that could ripple through their lives. Doubt clawed at her insides. What if Jenna was right? What did turning her back on this competition mean for her dreams? Every step toward fame and fortune came with sacrifices she never fully understood. What if she was just a puppet, her strings pulled by a hidden force? The pressure was suffocating. As the smoke curled and swirled around her, Lila inhaled sharply. A decision had to come, but could she really seize her own fate, or was everyone right? Was she just destined to meet expectations? She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to drown out the noise of chaos surrounding her. In that stillness, an image of the lake night flickered in her mind, a time when dreams felt so alive, so tangible. When choices were simple and pure. Lila. Jenna's voice cut through the haze like a lighthouse in a storm. If you say yes, you're trapping yourself. They'll write your story without you. You need to fight. The warning echoed louder than ever in Lila's mind. There was an urgency, a call to action that strummed at her heartstrings. No longer just about her, this was about authenticity, about being true to who she was. Fear began to morph into determination. Just then, the arena's lights flickered back on, revealing the crowd's expectant faces once again. Lila opened her eyes. Her voice steadied, breaking through the tension as she shouted, "I'll change the game." Gasps rippled through the audience, disbelief hanging in the air. The announcer's hand dropped, stunned. Lila felt a spark ignite within her, a flame of rebellion against the system that sought to define her. This was her moment, and she refused to let it be carved by others. There was a beat of silence before the chaos erupted. The stadium roared, confusion mingling with excitement. Lila could feel the pulse of energy, a shared understanding that something extraordinary was unfolding. Jenna's eyes were wide with a mix of shock and pride, a silent affirmation between them, but just as the adrenaline surged, another explosion of sound blasted from the back. It was a loud thud, followed by shouts of alarm that sliced through the buzzing excitement. Panic swept the crowd like wildfire. Someone fell, struggling in the haze of confusion. "Get back! Clear the way!" A voice echoed through the arena, commanding urgency. Lila clenched her fists, caught in the turmoil of emotions. Was this escalating chaos a distraction or something far more sinister? Her heart raced faster, the feeling of dread squeezing her chest as she scanned the crowd for answers. The lights flickered again, and then, suddenly, they cut out completely, trapping Lila and everyone else in plunging darkness. The muffled cries of panic filled the air, a cacophony of fear and confusion. "Jenna," she shouted, but her words felt swallowed by the void. Where was her friend? Lila's instincts kicked in. She had broken free from one cage, now was not the time to falter. But as she stumbled toward the edge of the stage, a chill crept down her spine. What awaited her in this unknown darkness, lurking in the corners of her decision? The sudden sharp sound of shattering glass erupted, emphasizing the chaos. Which side would she choose now? The stakes had just gotten higher, and Lila knew she was teetering on a precipice. What would she encounter when light returned? Was she truly ready to confront whatever dark truth lay hidden ahead? As thoughts spiraled, the ground beneath her shifted, and Lila realized this was just the beginning. The darkness felt alive, almost as if it were pulling Lila deeper into an abyss. Every breath she took sent waves of panic crashing against her ribs. Where was everyone? Where was Jenna? Footsteps echoed somewhere nearby, a jarring shuffle that sent her heart sprinting. She strained to hear, but all she caught were the fading shadows of chaos unfolding in the dark, a wave of uncertainty that only deepened her fear. Had someone else been hurt? Clenching her teeth, she slowly moved toward the sound, pushing through the weight of darkness that pressed against her like a wet blanket. A flicker. A sliver of light seeped through the crack behind the curtains at the edge of the stage. Just a momentary pulse, but it was enough to send her running. Long strides propelled her toward the beam, hope igniting anew, but as she reached the edge, yelling erupted again. Shouts filled the space, blending with the frantic noises of people scrambling away. Lila's pulse quickened. They were panicking. Were they scared of something, or someone? The urgency was palpable, electric, then a flash of light. It sliced through the dark, illuminating shadowy figures racing towards the exits. The spotlight fell on the fallen body, and Lila's breath caught. It was a contestant. A girl with tangled blonde hair, sprawled on the ground as paramedics rushed to her side. "Oh no, not again." Lila whispered, feeling her stomach twist. Another casualty in a game that was supposed to be about talent and dreams. Was this the price they all had to pay? Suddenly, the lights blared back to life, flooding the arena with brightness. The shock of illumination pushed back the shadows that had cloaked her within. Gasps filled the space. But Lila wasn't looking at the bright lights or the bustling crowd. Her gaze was fixed on the girl on the ground, her chest heaving as the paramedics worked frantically. Time slowed as Lila stared. Jenna was still nowhere in sight. Could she really go forward without knowing if her friend was okay? Lila! Someone shouted. She turned to find Wes, a fellow competitor, urgency etched across his face. Have you seen Jenna? She was right behind you. No, I thought she was with the crowd. Panic sliced through her. We need to find her. Stay put. She'll likely be trying to fight through this. Wes looked around, trying to scan the crowd but just seeing chaos unfold. They're evacuating everyone. We need to get to the back, and before he could finish, the announcer's voice boomed through the arena, trembling with tension. Ladies and gentlemen, it appears we have suffered an unforeseen incident. Please exit calmly in an orderly fashion. Calmly? Panic intensified like a tide, vibrant human emotion crashing against reason. Lila's heart raced. Did they know what really happened? Were they hiding the truth under a veil of pleasantries? The crowd began to flow toward the exits, a river of faces wide with fear and curiosity. Lila felt herself torn. She remembered her previous decisions. This was supposed to be her moment. Yet, the sight of that girl on the ground anchored her heart with guilt. Lila. Wes pulled her arm gently, almost pleading. We have to leave now. But she didn't move. The weight of her choice suddenly felt heavier. Fame? Glory? Or the lives intertwined in this battle for recognition? Her decision could carve paths, change stories, demand a reckoning. In that moment of turmoil, the arena lights flickered again, drawing her eye into the shadows of an unseen corner. A shimmer caught her attention, something glistening on the ground. Was it a clue, a hidden story waiting to be uncovered? As the crowd surged past her, Lila felt the stirrings of fate calling her name, pulling her into the unknown. Would she walk away or plunge into the mystery that awaited her in the shadows? As she hesitated, the murmurs of the crowd blended into a single, urgent chant. What are you going to do, Lila? Caught between the weight of her dreams and the desperation of the moment, she stood at a crossroads. The spotlight flickered back to life above her, as if asking, will you make the choice that changes everything? And somewhere deep inside, she knew the answer awaited. Lila stood frozen, caught between the siren call of the glimmering object and the suffocating chaos of the crowd. Fear pulsed through her like thunder, urging her feet to either flee or fight. The commotion swirled around her, the weight of life and death hanging in the air like a dark cloud. Lila. Let us go. Wes implored again, his voice barely slicing through the sea of frantic bodies pushing toward the exit. She shook her head, her mind racing. What if the flash wasn't just a glimmer? What if it was the key? With one last glance at the flickering lights, she took a deep breath, steeled herself, and stepped backwards into the shadows. Wes's frustrated shout faded into the cacophony as she hugged the wall, moving quietly towards the shimmer. The intimate shadows transformed into a labyrinth, the familiar arena now feeling foreign and menacing. Lila felt every heartbeat, every thud echoing in her ears, her instincts sharper than ever. The shimmering object lay just within reach, but what was it? A clue? Evidence? Whatever it was, it could hold answers that might save Jenna, or destroy everything. As she got closer, her heart sunk. It was a necklace, a delicate silver chain glimmering menacingly under the harsh lights. Dangling from it was a pendant shaped like an hourglass, the glass filled with a dark, swirling mist. Lila grabbed it, her fingers cold as she wrapped them around the chill of metal. Was this Jenna's? She could almost hear the whispers of fate haunting her with each passing second. Suddenly, the spotlight swung back toward her, illuminating the corners of her resolve, wrapping her in an unforgiving glare. Lila flinched, instinctively tucking the necklace into the pocket of her dress. She had a fleeting moment of panic, expecting to be caught, exposed, but it wasn't the spotlight that held her captive, it was the voice of the announcer that shattered the chaos. "Attention, everyone. We have a situation that requires your immediate attention. We ask you all to return to your seats and remain calm." Return to our seats? Lila thought incredulously as dread seeped into her bones. Were they really going to act like everything was fine? The tension in the arena was now palpable, everyone frozen, trying to mask their anxiety behind unsure expressions. She stepped back again, scanning the crowd for any sign of Wes or Jenna. Instead, she spotted a group of officials darting furtively through the audience, their demeanor rigid and serious. Something was off, and her gut twisted again. As if sensing her rising dread, the crowd began to murmur again, growing restless and confused. Whatever was happening underneath the surface was ready to explode, like a pressure cooker at its breaking point. "Lila." Wes's voice cut through the noise, and she turned to see him glaring at her, desperation on his face. "We have to leave. Now. It's not safe." But would it ever be safe? She glanced back at the hourglass. What if this necklace held the key to unraveling everything? What if it could explain the chaos or even Jenna's disappearance? "Just a little longer," she murmured to herself. "Just until I know more." Wes's hands gripped her shoulders, shaking her gently. "Lila. Listen to me. We can't stay here." Shouts erupted from the front of the arena, jagged words piercing through the chatter. "They're hiding something. Get out. We're not leaving until we know what's going on." The mix of confusion and fear ignited an uprising amongst the contestants and audience. A tide of bodies surged forward, and Lila felt herself swept along, lost in a current that felt both terrifying and transformative. "What are you doing?" Wes shouted, trying to pull her back. But the chaos was pulling her too, like a current strong enough to pull a ship under. The urgency flooded her like adrenaline, every instinct shouting to move forward. In that moment, trapped between the fear of the unknown and the weight of secrets, Lila realized that the choice she had made was not just about her fate, it was about all of theirs. The lights flickered once more, and the flash of the hourglass pendant shimmered against her chest, a sinister wink urging her onward. Would she dare to confront the truth waiting just beyond the curtain, even if it meant facing the darkest elements of the game? As the crowd surged, and fear morphed into a collective roar, she knew this was only the beginning. What monstrous secret had they managed to hide within these walls? And would unveiling it save them all or seal their fate forever? The roar of the crowd became a cacophony, a chaotic storm of panic and confusion that echoed through Lila's chest. She stumbled forward, swept along by the mass of bodies pressing toward the exits, hearts racing. The air was thick with desperation, and Lila could feel the tension coiling tighter, every second pushing her further toward the edge of something unthinkable. What had she done? The necklace was an anchor, pulling her deeper into this swirling chaos. The crowd surged like a tidal wave, every frantic movement reminding her of what was at stake. Jenna's face flashed in her mind, her laugh replaced by an all-consuming silence. The desperate clamor of voices blurred, drowning out the urgency of Wes's calls. "Lila!" Wes shouted again, pulling her back with a force that sent waves of anger and confusion crashing into her. "Come on. You're going to get hurt." But she couldn't leave. Not yet. Not while everything hung in the balance, precarious and fragile. The officials moved like hawks, their eyes sharp, scanning for something or someone. Lila's pulse quickened with a sense of foreboding. Maybe they were searching for her, for the secrets they knew would mount if this necklace connected her to Jenna's fate. She ducked into the shadows, slipping away from the chaos, her instincts kicking in, propelling her to explore the edges of the arena where the crowd parted just enough for her curiosity to take hold. A few steps in the darkness allowed her to breathe, her chest tightening with both fear and resolution. The pendant pulsed against her heartbeat, as if it possessed some ancient power that responded to her resolve. She had to know its secrets. The gem's surface shimmered under the dim lights, beckoning her as if it were alive. It felt both alluring and frightening, a reminder of the chaos swirling just outside the shadows. Lila. Wes's frustrated voice shattered her concentration, and she pressed herself deeper into the darkness. Each moment stretched into eternity, suspense hanging in the air laden like a thick fog. The noise clashed outside, but here, it was eerily quiet. Turning the pendant over in her palm, Lila whispered, "What are you hiding?" She could almost sense it whispering back, dark shadows swirling within the hourglass eternally frozen in time. Then came the sound of heavy boots thudding nearer. Her heart lurched as she crouched lower, thoughts racing. Were they coming for her? Were they searching for the necklace? She couldn't let them find it. Not with the weight of Jenna's fate threaded into the air. Lila pressed her back against the cold concrete wall, her breath shallow. The officials were close now, voices conspiratorial, talking of a trap set to ensnare those who dared to investigate deeper than the surface. The minutes are ticking away, we can't let them uncover the truth. Truth. That word hung in the air like a guillotine ready to drop. If she stayed hidden, could she absorb enough to turn the tide of whatever was unfolding? Or would she become yet another victim, swallowed whole by the darkness? A low murmur shot through the crowd, rising above the confusion. What is going on? We deserve to know. Answers. It sparked a wave of consciousness that surged against the whispers of the officials. Now was the moment of choice. Was it time to reveal herself, to confront whatever stones the officials had left unturned? Or was the risk too great, too loaded with deadly consequences? Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, flashing a series of vivid images that painted the arena in sharp contrasts of light and shadow, illuminating Lila's hidden spot. The crowd gasped collectively as the announcer's voice rang out, deep and foreboding. Ladies and gentlemen. We are about to unveil a truth that will shake the very foundations of this competition. The gaze of the crowd shifted, focus narrowing onto Lila's hiding place. A shiver skated down her spine. She was no longer just an observer, she was at the epicenter of the storm. What would this revelation mean for Jenna? For everyone? Uncertainty flooded her mind, but determination surged in her veins. With a final glance at the shimmering pendant, she stepped forward into the light, ready to embrace the chaos. What would the truth reveal, and could she handle the consequences once it was unleashed? The lights blazed down, exposing an arena that had held previously untold secrets, now ready to spill forth in a torrent of revelations. Lila blinked against their glare, her instincts screaming for her to turn back, but the collective energy of the crowd pulled her forward, irresistible as a magnet. They craved answers, she craved truth, an unsettling trade-off she never intended to make. Stay calm, she whispered to herself, fingers clasping the pendant tightly. Its warmth felt both reassuring and alarming, the heartbeat of something far beyond her understanding. The announcer continued, his voice resonating like thunder across the expanse. In just moments, everything will change. We will reveal the hidden connections that bind us all. Panic seeped through her as the crowd surged forward, the weight of their anticipation crushed around her. Were they there for her? Or for the promises wrapped within the veil of the necklace? Lila's mind raced, her heart pounding in sync with the thickening tension in the air. Like a movie playing on repeat, she could see Jenna's radiant smile, and it twisted a knife in her gut. Whatever truths this moment held could very well unravel everything she held dear. A surge of guilt clawed at her. Had Jenna paid the price for Lila's recklessness, for her refusal to walk away from the dangers that necklace posed? But just as the announcer raised his arms to quell the simmering unrest, the power flickered again, this time plunging the arena into darkness. The crowd erupted into a panic, cries of alarm echoing through the void. Lila felt her heart leap into her throat. "Stay together!" yelled an official's deep voice, frantically echoing through the shadows. A heart-pounding silence followed, before the lights surged back to life, casting sharp shadows across a scene that sent chilling ripples of disbelief cascading through the masses. On the giant screen, a video played, static fading into clarity, revealing a familiar face, a face belonging to Jenna. No, Lila's voice broke like porcelain under a heavy weight, disbelief anchoring her in place. Jenna stared back, cool and collected, yet her eyes were filled with an intensity that shook Lila to her core. "If you're watching this, it means I have disappeared," Jenna began, her tone steady but laced with urgency. "And it's no accident. I hid the truth to protect those I love, but now it's time for you all to know." Lila felt a wave of nausea. The truth? What had Jenna uncovered? And why had she kept it hidden? The crowd shifted uneasily, the atmosphere thick with expectant dread. Whispers turned into a roar as the audience clung to every word from the screen. The necklace Lila holds connects to something greater than a mere trinket. It holds the power of choices, of paths not taken. In this competition, we have all been used as pawns in a game far more sinister. At that moment, Lila could feel the collective breath of the crowd as the true weight of Jenna's words hung between them. The moment hung suspended in time, a live wire, each second amplifying the chaos swirling in Lila's heart, a conflict of emotions like a thunderstorm raging within, and just when Lila thought she could bear no more, the announcer's voice thundered again, despite the shadowy revelations. "Ladies and gentlemen, the game is just beginning. Who will seize control of their own fate?" Fate? Control? It was all slipping, fracturing before her eyes. Lila clutched the pendant tighter, determination sparking within her. She had to uncover the truth, her truth. But with Jenna's secrets laid bare, a new dread settled into her bones. What if uncovering these truths meant losing everything she held dear? And as Jenna's recorded image fixed on Lila, eyes piercing through the screen, Lila could feel the weight of her decision looming closer. Would she confront her fears, or would she let the chaos consume her too? Lila took a deep breath, the next moment unfolding before her like a tightly wound coil about to snap. She stepped forward into the unknown. Was this the ending she feared, or a beginning she never anticipated? The crowd roared like a wild storm as the announcer's words hung heavily in the air. Lila could hardly process the chaos unraveling around her. She felt both electric and paralyzed, a mix of adrenaline racing through her veins and sheer terror gripping her heart. With every eye in the arena now on her, the weight of expectation bore down, suffocating and relentless. Jenna's words echoed in her mind, sharper than a dagger. "We have all been used as pawns." The thought sent a tremor through her. What kind of game was this? And why had she been dragged into it? "Lila." A voice jolted her from her spiraling thoughts. It was a friend from her past. Emma, someone she thought had slipped away as life tangled them apart. Finding her in such a chaotic moment was both comforting and overwhelming. "I didn't think you'd show up," Emma yelled above the din, worry etched on her face. "I had to," Lila replied, her voice barely a whisper, yet it felt loud enough to cut through the noise. "But I don't know what's happening." "Jenna, I know," Emma interrupted, her eyes darting back towards the screen. "We need to figure out what this means for us. You're connected to this somehow." A knot twisted inside Lila. She didn't want to be at the center of anything, especially not a maelstrom of chaos. Yet, she felt the pull of the pendant, alive against her skin, a reminder of her destiny entwined with this strange double life Jenna had been keeping. The lights flickered ominously again, and the crowd collectively held its breath. Suddenly, the screen shifted, revealing a countdown timer starting at 10 minutes. Panic rippled through the audience. "What is this?" Emma shouted over the growing clamor. "It's a game, and we're the players," Lila spoke with determination. A flicker of clarity pierced her confusion. "But what are we playing for?" As the timer ticked down, a parade of faces filled the screen, familiar, anonymous, friends, and foes. Each one was linked somehow to the necklace. Each face bore an expression of fear, betrayal, or hope. It was a gallery of choices they all made that put them in this moment. Lila's heart raced as she locked eyes with her own reflection in the dark screen. It was then she noticed something on her own face, a shadow creeping across her features. Fear was making her doubt herself. But the stench of despair couldn't hold her. She had to trust in Jenna's message. "Listen," Lila urged Emma. "We need to take control. This is about choices, right? We can't let them dictate our fates." With newfound courage, Lila turned around to face the crowd, holding the pendant high. "Who's with me?" she shouted, feeling a swell of defiance rise from deep within. This necklace held secrets, yes, but it was time for her to wield the power for her friends, for Jenna. As whispers turned into shouts, the audience began to rally, some encouraging, others doubtful. But the momentum had shifted, a wind becoming a storm as voices united. Lila felt the ground tremble with the collective energy, a palpable force that ignited hope within. She could do this. They could do this together. Then a loud crack shattered the air, and lights erupted in a blinding flash, followed by a chilling silence that sent shivers racing down her spine. When the lights returned, a very different image filled the screen. A shadowy symbol, half-formed, resonated with an energy that felt ancient and profound. Above it, words flashed, "One choice will unleash the truth." Lila stepped back, charm slipping from her grasp, as another realization hit her like a cold wave. They weren't just competing for answers, they were standing on the precipice of discovery that might forever change their lives and the world. What if that choice came at a cost no one was prepared to pay? As the countdown clock continued its relentless march downward, Lila's heart pounded heavier than ever. Would she be brave enough to seize that choice? Or would they all risk losing everything? Time was running out. The crowd held its breath as Lila's heart began to race, each tick echoing the urgency in her chest. What choice? What truth? The screen pulsed ominously above, dark and foreboding, as if the shadowy symbol was alive and waiting. She felt the pressure of eyes on her, but this time, it didn't crush her. It fueled her. "Emma!" Lila shouted, desperation coloring her voice. "What does that mean? What truth are they talking about?" Emma's brows furrowed as she grappled with answers. "I don't know. But it has to be connected to the pendant. There is something they're not telling us." As the countdown continued, Lila could feel the collective anxiety rising, a tension that wrapped around them like a thick fog. Whispers turned into shouts, and the noise became a chaotic symphony of fear and uncertainty. The faces on the screen blended together, reflecting their unease. Each one was a reminder that they were all in this together, and yet so alone. Just then, the screen flickered and a new image shot across Jenna's face, momentarily frozen in fear, then contorted into an intense look, as if she was breaking through the surface of despair. "Lila! You have to take the leap." Jenna's voice echoed into the arena, somehow reaching them even through the chaos. "Trust your instincts. You'll know what to do." The crowd reacted with a mix of confusion and hope, eyes darting between the screen and Lila. Could she hear Jenna? Was this real? It felt like a lifeline thrown down into the abyss, but before Lila could process it all, a new sound sliced through the air, a deafening roar that made the entire arena tremble. The countdown timer hit the halfway mark, and heat radiated from the stage like a living being, awakening something deep inside her. With each second slipping away, she felt a call rattling within her ribcage, begging her to respond. "Lila!" Emma shouted again. "You need to decide. Now. What if this choice actually matters?" The sound of the crowd faded as her world narrowed down to the dance of faces on the screen and the palpable weight of the pendant. Every instinct screamed to run, to hide from the decision looming before her. But something in her shifted. What if this wasn't just about survival? What if this was a moment to defy her fate, to claim her power? I know what I have to do. Lila declared, conviction solid in her voice. She glanced at Emma, whose face was painted with both fear and anticipation. I have to confront it, whatever it is. We can't let them control us. Not anymore. Emma's grip on her arm tightened, a lifeline of support. But what if the truth changes everything? Then let it. Lila shot back, determination sparking in her eyes. With one final glance at the shadowy symbol, she raised the pendant overhead, letting its shimmering presence capture the collective gaze of the audience. Together, we can rewrite the rules. Lila shouted. The moment hung thick in the air, a sudden stillness washing over the crowd, their heartbeats sinking in a shared pulse of expectation. As the countdown ticked down, the screen shifted once more. Words materialized: face the shadow, embrace the truth. With that ominous message, darkness engulfed the stage, and Lila felt the energy drain from around her. The crowd let out a collective gasp as the lights flickered, and the shadow symbol surged to life. Get ready, Lila, Emma whispered, a blend of fear and trust in her voice. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. But as the lights surged back to life, what emerged was something neither of them expected. A figure stepped forward, cloaked in shadows, eyes burning with an otherworldly intensity. It didn't feel human, and yet, Lila could sense its power calling to her, a promise wrapped in menace. Will you take the leap now, Lila? It mused, voice deep and resonant, echoing like forgotten memories. Or will you retreat into the dark? The crowd gasped, and Lila's breath hitched. The choice was heavier than she had anticipated, and the truth it promised was daunting. Was it worth it to confront what lay ahead? With the final seconds counting down, Lila stood on the brink of a decision that could seal their fates. What lay beyond that leap? Courage, or catastrophe? Time was melting away, and the answers felt agonizingly close yet terrifyingly distant. As the countdown reached its final second, Lila's heart pounded in her chest, and she faced the figure, her voice trembling but resolute. I choose to face the truth. And in that moment, the world around her exploded into raw chaos. Lila's resolve rippled outwards, a shockwave that pulsed through the crowd. They held their breath in unison, the crowd a living, breathing entity, poised on the brink of something unimaginable. As the shadowy figure loomed closer, the air crackled with energy, thick with anticipation, desire, and fear. It was both a confrontation and a reckoning, the embodiment of everything Jenna had warned her about: the trap, the manipulation, the unyielding chains of a game rigged from the start. Face the truth. The being's voice echoed, reverberating against the arena walls. Will you align with the shadows, or carve your own path? Lila's heart pounded like a drum. She lifted the hourglass pendant, its dark mist swirling within it, a vortex of possibilities. I choose to break the chains. In a moment that felt suspended in time, the pendant glowed brightly, an incandescent flare that illuminated the entire arena. The shadow retreated slightly, startled. Lila pressed forward, feeling strength surge through her limbs and fury boil in her chest. This was her choice, and it held more power than any contract, image, or title ever could. Every single contestant deserves to know the truth. She shouted, her voice filling the arena like a bolt of lightning. To know that they are not pawns in a twisted game. We will decide our fate together. The crowd erupted, their voices rising like a tidal wave. Emma joined Lila at her side, determination mirrored in her eyes. With each pulse of energy from the pendant, the atmosphere shifted, igniting hope. The shadow recoiled but then began to shift and morph, twisting into shapes that felt all too familiar: faces of former contestants, each one a fleeting echo in Lila's mind. You think your voices matter? It hissed, disdain dripping from its words. You're just drops of water trying to be the ocean. But Lila's heartbeat intensified. We may be drops, but we're not lost. Together we form a tidal wave of change. The realization washed over her. This was more than a competition, it was about rewriting their stories. It was about reclaiming their narratives from those who sought to control them. Each person was unique, a vibrant thread woven into a collective tapestry. Suddenly, the pendulum of time swung back into motion, and the faint sound of footsteps echoed behind her. They turned, and there stood Jenna, her face pale but resolute, supporting herself against the wall, a survivor who had braved the storm. Relief washed over Lila, momentarily making her forget the chaos surrounding them. Lila. Jenna managed, breathless. You're not just changing the game, you're changing everything. With newfound energy, Lila raised the pendant high once more. The truth isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace. Who will stand with us? The audience responded with a thunderous cheer, fueled by a fire that had been ignited in their hearts. They surged forward, faces brimming with possibility. The shadows trembled, and Lila could feel the tide turning. Every choice we make casts a shadow, the figure spat, but its voice wavered, the power it once commanded unraveling. But you cannot fight the inevitable. Watch me, Lila replied, her heart steady. She turned to the crowd, felt their trust weighing upon her. Let us make this our own. With a united front, the crowd echoed her words, their voices ascending in a cacophony of hope and defiance. We will take control. At that moment, the pendant pulsed brighter than ever, spilling light across the arena. Suddenly, visions erupted behind it, like stars scattered into the abyss, a future forged by their choices, a path untaken full of dreams, collaboration, and courage. Enough. The figure howled, contorting as if in pain, the crowd's energy refusing to be quelled. Then, just as swiftly as the chaos had intensified, everything fell silent, the weight of Lila's choice resonating through each person. She stood at the helm of their collective fate, a beacon in the tumultuous sea of uncertainty. As the final threads of darkness began unraveling, Lila's heart swelled with hope. The shadows will fade, she declared. And in their place, we will build a brighter world together. The last vestiges of darkness broke apart like cobwebs in the wind, scattering into nothingness. The crowd erupted into cheers, Lila's spirit buoyed by the collective triumph that filled the air. She had faced down the shadows, uncovered the truth, and in doing so, had ignited a fire that couldn't be extinguished. With Jenna by her side and Emma clasping her hand, she could feel the threads of their destinies intertwining, pulling them together into a bright tapestry of hope. Amid the chaos, the whisper of a promise lingered, a quiet affirmation that perhaps things could be different. Lila took a breath, a sigh of relief, of completion. The shadows behind them had receded, but their fight had just begun. The audience was alive, roaring with possibility, and Lila felt a deep connection in her heart. This was their moment, it was time to embrace it. With hearts ignited, they stepped forward together, united and alive with possibilities. And so, the story wasn't just Lila's anymore, it was every one of theirs, a vibrant new beginning that recognized the power of choice and community. Now, dear friends, seize this moment with us. You need to subscribe immediately. Don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And go ahead, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel this empowering conclusion. Show your support, because only true fans understand the importance of letting your voice be heard in this community. Don't wait even one more second to share. Join us in this journey.